Aaron Rodgers battles the Commanders. Then in America's Game of the Week, it's the game that is tearing this show apart. The First Things First Bowl. Mahomes versus Jimmy G. Only on Fox and the Fox Sports app.
First of 2 times we're going to see that game this year.
Ooh, wow.
Look at you.
Super Bowl Niners. Super Bowl rematch.
It's been a wonderful time. We're going to start off with the wonderful Magic Pistons.
Oh.
I mean, it's pretty good debut here. Big pair on Corey Joseph. Pistons win 113-109. Did you know this is the first 25-5-5?
Oh, let me guess. Since LeBron?
Yes.
Oh, okay, yeah, that's what I thought.
I was at that game.
Was that a guess, or are you reading my script?
I don't read your script.
Don't lean
Corey
over.
Joseph, by the way, Brew,
script.
that should be a flagrant.
Clutch climb.
But that should be a flagrant.
What are you talking about?
Sliding over underneath a guy,
Oh, give
if they're
me a
going to
break.
say getting under three-point shooters is dangerous, that's dangerous.
Give me a
That should be a
But
flagrant.
he was there. It
I
looked
know.
like he was there.
Yeah, it's flagrant.
Bad take.
Change the rules,
What?
Silver.
You know, save
Change the rules.
Save that
According to the rules,
save that
it's not
take
a
for the
flagrant.
Yeah, that's why I
podcast.
said should be.
We're Knicks Grizzlies. Derrick Rose hits Steven Adams with an errant pass.
You know what? That maybe should be a flagrant, too.
Okay, enough. Grizzlies win in overtime. Knicks firmly in the driver's seat for Wembanyama. I told you, Knicks. Good start. 2 up on the Jazz.
I actually was impressed with the Knicks.
Wonderful. 2 on for the Astros early. Aaron Judge comes up with a great
Nice.
catch here. It's not enough because you don't get any points for that or runs.
More than
Yankees
just a big
strike
bat.
out 17 times in the
Yeah.
park.
More
Maybe
than
they
just a
shouldn't have
big
been
back, though.
drinking champagne hours into the night before they had to fly to Houston for an ALCS.
Now that's a good take.
Yeah, maybe put that champagne literally on ice.
I got 2 more wonderfuls. Denver, Utah.
Oh,
Guess who's
this
back?
is
The
bizarre.
Ryan Russillo fave. Jeff Green with his yearly.
Oh.
Wow, Jeff Green still got it highlight. He burned this one early in the season. More on this game right now. Another wonderful end of game. Go ahead, Nick.
Oh, well, listen, this is Colin Sexton, young bull, revving up like a bull to go past the consensus best player in the league, one of the greatest players ever, 2-time MVP Nikola Jokic. I know what you're saying. Oh, my God, the Nuggets lost to the Jazz. But, guys, let's be fair. Wait till Nikola gets his teammates. Oh, wait, they're back?
Yeah.
Oh, they're whole? Oh, and they lost to a team that literally wants to lose games? Okay, but what was his VORP, Andy Bailey?
Oh.
Send me that.
Wow. Shots at a guy I've never heard of.
Yeah.
All right, let's move on. Talking Brady. This is the story we've all been waiting for. That's why I teased it like that. Bucks on a losing streak. Tom's missing meetings, missing receivers, yelling at his guys. He addressed some of the Bucks' struggles and the retirement whispers. He addressed them today. Take a listen.
There's been a couple of national talking heads speculating that, Tom is not even going to finish out this season. And I've tried to say that's got to be crazy. I mean, we're here all the time. Can you clarify?
Well, that's really why I'm here. I'm here to announce, finally, you guys pushed me to the brink. And no, I think a lot of it for me is just us going out there to, I love the sport and I love the teammates and I want to go do a great job for this team like I always have. So no retirement in my future.
Not retiring. So there you go.
Future. Okay.
Well, I mean, eventually he's going to
He
retire.
pushed that story to us. Maybe. We'll see. You're saying that 10 years ago.
How much of the Bucks' struggles are Brady's fault?
This is hard because obviously the only reason they're relevant is Tom Brady. I know they had a lot of talent when he went there, but they were 7-9, hadn't made the playoffs in a dozen years. But this year, I really think if I have to put a number on it, I'm giving him the lion's share. I think 60 to 65%. Now you can talk about his play is not up to par for him. And if that's age, if Father Time finally is grabbing on his shoulder, then everybody was fine with that, right? That's coming at some point. But I don't think it's that. I think it's just the tone he has set with his attitude and the poor example he set. Like the 11 days off in training camp combined with going to Robert Kraft's wedding day before game. I think that's undermined Todd Bowles' authority, and I think it's undermined Brady's ability to lead with some players. Some players might just be like, hey, he's the GOAT, he can do whatever. I think some players, Nick, in their mind are like, it just undermines you. It happened to Michael Jordan in Washington. I don't care how great you are. Players still can think you're not living up to what you're saying, so don't come at us with all that leadership stuff.
No, definitely. And I had the opportunity to play with Brett Favre, and it was the same situation for me as a younger guy. Like, oh my God, this is Brett Favre coming in. This is amazing. And that lasted for 2 practices. And then after that, it's the quarterback. And so, you need to see Tom at the Saturday walkthrough. Like, in that Saturday walkthrough, the game plan's already in. Like, it doesn't really matter. He knows it like the back of his hand, but it's just the presence. Going to that party, and if it was a family member, if it was, illness or something, like the guys get that excuse is fine. But if it's a party and you're not with the team, you don't travel with the team, you show up in Pittsburgh because you were in New York City the night before, and then you go out there and throw a stinker and yell at your guys, it's not a great look.
Can I ask you a quick question on that? Because James Jones said the same thing. So what I'm trying to, square the circle is you say it's important. James Jones earlier this week said it was important. And then I'm like, wow, what's going on in this meeting? And like, nothing really. Nothing really.
It's not important for the X's and O's. It's important for the presence.
Right.
That you are there with your teammates.
Why? I just don't get it. Like you just there's Tom, good. I'm taking attendance.
Everyone has to show up and everyone goes to work. Like that, and so when you get special allowances, and yes, you can say he's the GOAT, he's Tom Brady, 7 rings, but when it comes down to it and you're out there on the playing field, you're all playing together, and that one guy wasn't with you on the flight, like that, it stinks.
Well, it also is compounded by the fact that it shouldn't be overstated what a disastrous, indefensible loss that was to Pittsburgh. It wasn't only that Pittsburgh had lost 4 in a row and their only win of the year came in a game where they turned Cincinnati over 5 times and Cincinnati missed 2 kicks and they lost their long snapper and they still needed the last moment of overtime to win it. That Pittsburgh team was far better than the one that came to play the Bucs.
Everybody's hurt.
No Watt, we knew that, but also no Minka. None of their top 3 corners. And you score, let me check, 1 offensive touchdown. And to answer the question, I think Brady, let's just shift it purely to on the field. And I agree with everything Bruce said, by the way. Brady wants to keep playing football. I don't think he wanted to play for the Bucs. I think it was very clear he wanted to play for the Dolphins, and it all got screwed up after the Bulls lawsuit. He couldn't get there, and now I don't want to say he's hostage, but he's playing, but not where he wants to play. So I agree with everything Bruce said. But just on the football field, Brady has not been very good. If you remove the Chiefs game, where they were down 17 and scored, and then the Chiefs go up 17, remove that game, the Tampa Bay offense in 5 games has scored 6 touchdowns. That is Russell Wilson numbers.
Oof.
It is 16 points
bad.
Per game. That Tampa Bay offense has scored 19, 13, 12, 21, 18 in the 5 games other than the Chiefs game when they got blown out. Now, I know what some would say if you watch the Bucs closely. They're the worst running team in football. That's not on Tom. Fair enough. But because Brady, and I think this is smart of him, Brew, but there's a cost to it. Brady won't let himself get hit. He's one of the lowest sack quarterbacks in the league, and he does that because he's 45. He knows he's trying to play 20 games, wants to stay healthy. But if you can't run the ball, and you're not going to hold on to the ball and take hits, you know what I mean, while guys get open, what's going to happen is you're going to become a dink and dunk non-explosive offense, which is exactly what has happened with Tampa. That defense is good enough to where they should not be losing some of the games that they're losing. So Brady the player, not just Brady the leader, Brady the player through 6 weeks has massive accountability for this team's offense being as bad as it's been.
See, a lot of the blame, and maybe it was a little bit off of the yelling incident, but was on the offensive line. So I asked Josh, I was like, hey, can you pull up the numbers of like the beginning of last season's offensive line and this season's offensive line? Like, a lot of it looks exactly the same. You got sacked 9 times, you've been hit about 25 times, you got about 40 some odd pressures. Which, when you see him berating the offense, it just seems, I think people make the leap and be like, man, it's the offensive line, but maybe it's not. Robert Hainsey addressed this and said he actually liked it. Take a listen.
Everyone can call it what they wanted, but I want nothing more. I want nothing else in a quarterback than that, than the guy who's willing to tell us what we need to do and step up. And he's just sit over there and not get us going and not try to help us. He wouldn't be who he is today. So I love that from him. And I know we all love that from him. It might look weird on TV, but that's football, and it's a team sport, and that's what you want from great teammates and great leaders, and he's the best there is.
You buy that?
No.
Okay.
He has to say that. That's something you have to say as an offensive lineman and not to cause any problems. Because offensive linemen don't like causing problems. Like, that is one of our main tenets is like, as long as we don't cause any problems, everyone's going to be good. So he's going to come out there and say, listen, yeah, that's what we needed. That's the motivation. Like, that's going to get us going. It obviously didn't. They didn't win the game. And there's guys in that locker room on that offensive line being like, listen, I don't need to take that. Like, you can do other motivating tactics, but I don't need to be berated so that way my wife can call me and say, hey, listen, I was watching the game and woo, we really got after you guys.
Is that an issue, Nick, even if, like, I'm thinking the hiatus from training camp, the wedding on Saturday, that makes it tougher for the linemen to take? Because, we've seen players yell at each other. If he's there all the time and the Brady we've seen in the past, is it an issue still or just because of this year the way he's
I think this year, the way that it's been with the training camp, this recent departure, that kind of builds a little bit of resentment in there. Even though 7 rings, he's the GOAT, he's unbelievable, but I think we're starting to put him up on this pedestal and we all know he's more important than the team. But now it's really starting to feel like he is believing that.
So I find this really fascinating. Because you're one of the greatest offensive linemen of your generation. Jason Kelce, who oddly enough is the second best Kelce, but he's also one of the greatest offensive linemen of his generation. He, on his podcast he does with his brother, said that he would be furious. And he dropped a bunch of F-bombs. It's like, you got to be kidding me. You know what I mean? I'm out there wrestling for 3 hours a day doing my best, and you're screaming at me. And then he said the exact thing you said at the end. He's like, but it's Tom Brady, so I guess it's okay. And I do think that there are those of us, I'll raise my hand, who doubted Tom enough and then had him keep winning and keep going. And in my particular case, beat my team in the Super Bowl. Where a lot of us are like, okay, like he's kind of like, he's aged out of the criticism bucket. But for the guys on his team, to your point, I don't know that they feel that way. And I do think there is an element of, it is embarrassing. It is when you know the cameras are on you and you're being dressed down.
Do you think it was a camera thing, though? Like, if the cameras didn't catch it, would it still be an issue?
Mahomes, hold on. Let me just, sorry, but the Chiefs was the game they just were playing against the Raiders. Mahomes getting his ass kicked the whole first half. And then they said after the game, he lit into the offensive line in the locker room at halftime. And they came out, maybe coincidence, maybe not, played far better in the second half. They win the game. That was a good story after the fact because A, nobody saw it, and B, it would have been private if it didn't have a happy ending. Brady did it on the sideline where everyone can see it, and Nick's talking about your wife calling you and being like, what the hell's going on there? I assume that happened. So that you have family members that are like, you're getting screamed at like a little kid on national television. It can't be fun.
No, I wouldn't think so. And I think that is probably a big driver, and that's why this game is so important. They need to win, but they need to win in big fashion.
You know what? That's why I only criticize Nick in commercial breaks. I'll show you. Great job. That was some great points. Hey, this is the game we've all been waiting for. Jimmy G versus Mahomes. Up next, first things first.